when I have brought it up to like, guy friends that I think are like a little bit more open-minded, they'll even fight back and say, isn't that like a form of compliment for someone to be doing that? Because you're going to reach a certain age that you're not going to get these compliments anymore. And then I'm like, but why would someone think that I need someone yelling something at me for me to feel validated about myself?
Ignition sequence start.
And we are live with the Primas in 5,
4,
3,
2,
1.
In this episode, the Primas talk about the different language they heard growing up about gender stereotypes. ¿Qué onda, primas y primos? Welcome back to the Primas podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. I am Cindy, here with my two lovely co-hosts.
Hi, everyone. It's me, Melissa.
Everyone, it's Jess.
Awesome. How's everyone doing today? How did everyone feel about preparing for this topic? Jessica, you look like you're ready to answer this. You look like you've been thinking about this all day.
I have. I'm super excited. I'm more excited than our fear topic. No, this one resonates with me so much. I mean, not only do I have a daughter, but I really want to deconstruct this idea of like a girl, right?
Yeah, like the stereotypes of like you hit like a girl, or when a boy is crying, like you're acting like a girl, or just all of the different like. And I don't want to use the word derogatory. They are derogatory, but I'm trying with this conversation. I'm trying to really get at the solution, because I feel that female energy and male energy were put on this planet for a reason, and we're all divine. And I feel like everything, especially like I said after reading The Alchemist, everything has a soul, and I really connected. Like, I don't know, for the first time ever, I was like, man, that's true. Like, also the elements have a soul, like the sun and the wind and water and dirt. Is it like
Sand.
right?
Yeah, the sand.
But anyway, so I just feel like we haven't figured out a way to coexist, because I feel like both energies are so beautiful. They're beautiful. And I feel like if we would learn to balance them out, then I feel like we can get along better. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, although we will touch on that tonight. Actually, this airs on Friday morning, so we're gonna touch on that Friday morning. Anyway, so yeah, Mel, what about you? Any thoughts?
For me, it took a lot of thinking about the past, how things were in the past for women. So thinking about like how dating back from like our grandparents, or things that were televised on TV. So that's where I was kind of more interested in this topic. Where did this all lead to that now it caused us to have this sense of thinking of girls being a certain way, or females, for instance. So that's the way I took it. So for preparing with this and talking with Jess and then seeing your notes, Cindy, it really just helped. Like, where's the bottom line? Where did this all get to?
Well, I think we all have our different interests, because this is a broad topic, like gender stereotypes. And as women, and as we always say, we're only talking for our very individual, unique perspective. And so we're not talking for everyone. I'm sure there's people that feel differently about this. So this is just to start the conversation about things, those negative stereotypes that women have, and the language that we use, and the language that we heard growing up, where being a female was weak. And if a male displayed any type of emotion, then they were weak and they were being called out, right? And I know that it exists so much in the Mexican culture, like machismo and like kind of the more aggressive, like dominant type of energy. And a lot of us, I guess, play into it. Like I was attracted to that when I was younger, and I grew up in a toxic environment. Like I learned, I didn't learn, I guess, to trust people, and male or female, when I was younger. And so like I carried that onto my adult. And that's what we always talk about, childhood trauma, because at least now I know where it came from and I can start to work on it. But and I have. So this topic is very sensitive for me, because I'm literally in the middle of doing all of that work. especially from a cultural perspective. I was treated very differently by my mom. Growing up, I have four brothers, and I'm the only girl. And it wasn't as bad as some other people that I know. Like some people, it's very much like if you're a woman in the home, like you do everything for the man and you do everything for the home, and whether that's your brother, your dad, or your husband, whatever. Like, it, and that wasn't our case, But I didn't feel like I felt resentment towards my mom for doing that until now as an adult. Like this came up later, and so it's just like because it was work that I never did. So I'm in the middle of it, but I do feel that healthy relationships between everybody would make the world a better place. It would make us happier to be in this world. If we all respected each other and really saw each other like, man, you're divine. Like I love your energy and I love what you bring to this world. Type of place.
Even from our parents and our grandparents, like directly one or two generations behind us. And I look at us three and we're nothing like that, So we're definitely embodying this like new modern idea of what's normal, what we're gonna present to our daughters as normal, and future generations.
Yes, and I wanted to talk about this because I heard in another podcast, shout out to the Brilliant Idiots, and Charlamagne the God said that, I don't know if he heard it somewhere, but he's talking about how the vagina is God. And he explained his theories on why he believes that. And I was like, man, that's crazy, because he says life comes out of the vagina, life goes into the vagina, and people do things for the vagina. Like, I guess he was talking in that space romantically, but like, just, I don't know, the way he was explaining the concept, it made me think like, that's pretty cool. I like that. Like, because it's true. And so I started thinking of that, on how powerful a vagina is, and then how we hear it in music, how we hear about it when we talk to each other, or when you hear people like fighting or talking shit to each other. They use words like pussy, like you're such a pussy, you're being a pussy, and it's a derogatory term. Derogatory.
Heated of, when no one headed, take headed of. No.
Derogatory term. Thank you guys for being patient with my language inability. And so yeah, and then I think growing up, we heard a lot too, like with my grandpa, and you're being, pareces vieja, and that's translating into like you're being a woman, you're being like, shut, like, it's disrespectful, it's just like, stop, you're being annoying. And then I start thinking like, but women are so divine, and yes, I'm biased, I'm a female saying this, but at the same time, it's like, I know that men can see that too sometimes, and I'm like Melissa, like, where did the power struggle happen, where those things shifted? And then it reminds me back to our topic on racism, where it's just like it was over control and power. I think that's my theory now, right? From all of these things that I'm listening to, and as a woman, as a mom, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like why is there such a disconnect? And I'm not using the word equality. I'm talking about really finding a balance between male and female energy, because I think we both have something great to bring to the table. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, although those are very significant.
I would like to add on to that. That's a great point that you're making, Cindy, because honestly, it just takes for us to see things how things were back then. For instance, as far as, the working wife being at home, and that was her 24/7 job, to now I just look at myself in the screen and I see two hardworking primas, like, or three, because I'm looking at myself too. And we've all changed that stigma, to be honest, and that way of life and the way of thinking. So to me, that's just a beautiful mindset that we all have, that we're embracing on one another.
Yeah, that does feel powerful, especially because I do have a daughter, and I wanted a daughter so badly. Just because I'm like, I think I'd be a better, obviously if I would have had a boy, it would have been fine too, but I just felt like I wanted that connection, and then to just help like raise a daughter that I don't know is very in tune with herself and learns, like who she is, and then also like experiences the world in a very like positive way, but then understanding that there is hurt, there is pain because that's a part of the human process. But yeah, so that's cool that you said that, Mal, because it made me feel proud. Like, oh yeah, that's true. I do have a daughter, and that is amazing because she's 4 years old, and we talk already about so much, And the other thing that I like to kind of like bring awareness to is like to destigmatize, um, especially in the Mexican culture, like not being able to talk to our kids and family about sex. It's such an important topic, and we're so uncomfortable with the conversation. Like my mom would never, like the only thing my mom really presented to me, and I'm not judging, like she was doing her best, but was like abortion. She's like, don't abort because you're killing babies, and it's just like, what? I don't even know how to get to that point, right? Like I don't what there was just so much disconnection, and and I know that I'm not alone. I know that growing up there was a lot of people like we didn't know, we were trying to figure it out for ourselves because nobody wanted to talk about sex. And when I taught at the high school, it was amazing because I was able to teach health, and I did go into those conversations. I was just like, look, we need to learn about our bodies. We need to like learn to respect our bodies. We need to learn like and female and male. I was presenting both parts because both genders should know this is how these two species of like humans work. We should know how males work, and they should know how, you know what I mean? Like just so that we can understand each other. So that was a cool opportunity because I was able to go into those conversations being comfortable, but then also knowing where they're coming from. Like, I know you guys are going to feel uncomfortable because this isn't an open topic for teenagers, but we need to have it. It's very important. Like, it's important for our mental health, emotional health. If we're sexually active, if we're getting urges, like that's a biological trait that happens to all of us. Why not talk about it and learn and educate so that we're not stigmatizing the word vagina and like, oh my God, don't say that. It's just like, this is where kids come from. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful thing. Our hearts pump blood into our body so that our systems function. You know what I mean? Like our brain allows us to think and create thoughts and actions. Our vagina brings life into this world. I think, that, and that's what I tell my daughter. And she kind of, I mean, she's young, and I'm allowing her to kind of come into whatever with that, and she doesn't question it too much, but I think she gets it. Like when I talk to her about her and other moms and other babies, and she thinks it's beautiful. It's not like, oh, you said vagina.
I wanted to actually pick your brain about the whole word vagina, because yes, that word is so uncomfortable. Like, like I hear, like, for instance, people say it and it makes someone in the room feel uncomfortable saying that word. So I want to kind of pick your brains, Primas. Like, okay, like you said, you brought it up to your daughter. How in the world does she understand that, for instance?
Yeah, I think because I try to normalize it as much as possible. Like when I taught at the high school, I was like, why? And then I also questioned when I was in high school, when I was in middle school, like, why weren't we taught about our bodies? Like no one teaches us these things. Now we have the internet, so it's amazing. But there was a time where it's just like, where do we get this information and how does that work? And whatever. But so once I learned that, like the teenagers were fascinated. They wanted to learn. They were excited to learn. And they were very uncomfortable too, because I showed them pictures, like not like real life pictures, but just like graphs. And like, look, we're gonna break down the vagina and the penis. Like we need to know how this works. It's a big part of who we are. And so it takes a lot of the like emotion from it. I think when you're just like, this is biology, this is scientific. Like every species functions differently for the purpose of reproduction, which is why we have our sexuality is for the purpose of reproduction, and it's instilled in our biology. So it's like an urge. And it's just like when you're going through puberty, right? And you get all these urges, and then you're demonized for them. And it's like, why are we doing that? They don't even know what's going on. Like, don't get mad at them for doing what is in our natural makeup for the purpose of reproduction. So I think with my daughter, it was just natural. Like, I just never was like, like I do tell her how to I explain it in a more scientific way. Like, this is how, we watch a lot of shows on animals. And so she has that connection. And so I'll like use that to connect, like, well, this is how humans and mommies have babies. And the talk about breasts as well. It's just like, breasts are beautiful things too, because they're meant to like feed and provide nutrition for a brand new baby. Like, it's so special. And we're like, titties, and it's just like, we all have a natural attraction to breasts because we know that that's where like food can come from, but it's just so subconscious. Yeah. But on top of that, we've over sexualized like the female body. And like I said, in my culture, that's something that I struggled with a lot growing up because of the catcalling. And so I'm just trying to make sure my daughter doesn't create the same traumas that I did, if I can help explain, human behavior a little bit. I don't know. It's hard. I don't know.
Yeah, even Melody, we're just going through potty training, and I'm barely going through this phase with her. And I remember like reaching out to other moms or even Cindy saying, well, what did you guys use? Because I didn't want to use like PP or like, these little kid terms. I wanted to use the actual terms. Like, why is it so hard for us to say vagina? Like, this is your vagina. Like, I agree with Cindy. It starts with us. We're their foundation, and it's their environment that they're going to grow up to. And I do want her to be comfortable and us just have that dialogue about our bodies,
And I just wanted to mention that as our daughters, age and they're getting older and they can, understand a little bit more. There's also like, it's also very important for little girls and little boys to understand consent and to teach them from a very early on that, this is their private parts. And again, it sucks that we've over sexualized the human body because it shouldn't be this way. It should be like, oh, we got to protect ourselves from others. But unfortunately, we do, especially as women. And so it's also very important to let them know, like, this is yours. And I read that somewhere, like, this is mommy's vagina, and like no one touches it unless I say so. But you can't make that decision right now because you're too little. So we don't even go into that much. It's just what she can, sort of understand. But and I don't have a son, but it's the same exact situation. Like, we need to normalize consent. Like, can I hug you? Can I, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes we just go in for it, and I'm like, I am such a like loner now and away from my family that I'm like, get the hell away from me. And it sucks.
I know. But none of our love language is physical touch. I think that's like a family thing. Mine is not physical touch at all. I hate when
true.
And my sisters are the same. My parents are the same. Like, it's just, we're not a physical family. Like, I think we're close when we talk and people know we're a close family, but we're just not physical. Like, even with COVID, like, even more so keeping us far away from each other. But like, we don't overly touch each other. I don't know. I think that's a cultural thing that comes within our family. And I think we're that family that is not overly like affectionate.
I think I'm a little affectionate with you guys. Like, I always squeeze in for the hug. I do. Or like, I like kisses at when we're
I would say, out of all of us, you're definitely the most.
Mel, you pat Melody on the head. You never hug her. No, I'm just kidding.
Arthur. That's Arthur. And Melody's always running away from us.
That's true. No, Melody don't give you a moment.
Arthur is so awkward with people. Like, hi, like.
I was going to say, it's either Mel, because I was thinking like, Mel always does come in for the extra.
I do.
Extra whatever, huggish or, and I can see me and every else in the world kind of like, I don't really do the hugs. And then the only other person in our family would be Abraham.
Oh yeah, Abraham is so affectionate.
Abraham stays touching me.
Yeah, and
he like rubs my shoulder.
And it's non-consensual. And we've always allowed Abraham, shout out, I love you so much. But he'll just go, like, he don't care. And with me, my tia Letty, my mom, he's a little extra close.
Yeah. No, like he'll rub your shoulders.
Might consider, extra close. Yeah. And I feel like tia Letty's egging him on now, back. And I'm like, no, let's not make that a thing. Like, why do we play this way? But yeah, so shout out to our family. We love them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only very affectionate with my own daughter. And like when I have a partner. Like when I'm in an intimate relationship, because I'm not going to go there, but just know. Yeah. I'm physical. There. Yeah.
Now let's dive into that. That's actually going to be our next topic. How you are in a relationship.
No, but yeah, so yeah, I'm not very touchy. Definitely. It's like, get the hell away. But anyway, so this is I was, you know, looking for inspiration, of course. And then I also used this song when I was teaching in the high school. Tupac. So this song is really cool. It's called Keep Your Head Up. It's pretty popular. Um and so I have there's a his whole first verse is like super talking about kind of what we're talking about, like he puts it all in one verse, and then he's also referring to black women, but I still I identified as a woman, but just I understand that in this song he's, you know, he's talking about black women, and then in his second verse he's talking about black men, and it's just kind of like their struggle and issues within their culture. But I loved it because it did talk about women. I think as Mexicans, we're a minority group that still kind of has a lot of like negative gender stereotypes, you know, and we go through that. And so, okay, I wanted to read a few quotes from the song and then just kind of elaborate a little bit. Okay, and I quote, "And since we all came from a woman, got our name from a woman, and our game from a woman, I wonder why we take from our women, why we rape our women. Do we hate our women?" And then a little further along, he says, "It's time to heal our women, be real. And if we don't, we'll have a race of babies that will hate the ladies that make the babies. And since a man can't make one, he has no right to tell a woman when and where to create one. So will the real men get up? I know you're fed up, ladies. Keep your head up."
Yeah,
So,
that's a good
man,
one.
Tupac again, so ahead of his time,
I
because
know.
he not only did he understand his identity as a black man in this world at his time, he also understood the woman's. He was like, that's amazing, you know. And man, just hip hop lost a lot of amazing influences because like that's not what they're talking about anymore. But you never know, it might come back. I don't know. Anyway,
You know what I
so
wanted to add, Cindy, really quick?
mhm, yeah,
I think also he respects the woman because he had a lot of respect for his mom. Remember, like his upbringing, you know, and a lot of things that he's seen with his mom growing up in poverty and, you know, the situations that she was in. So I think him living that childhood trauma, which we have an episode on that, you know,
mhm,
segues into his adulthood and his mind way and thinking.
Like the
You know?
Me Too movement just started, you know, but how many years and centuries have women been suppressed and just like accepting this behavior? And I'm just like, why? Why is it acceptable? Like, has catcalling, honestly, can any guy ever like own up or admit to like that actually being successful way of attracting women? Like, you know, I mean, we've all had it walking down the street, and I don't understand,
That's
like,
awesome.
even when it's happening at that moment, like how many
mhm.
times, like out of, I'm just curiosity, out of the statistics, how many times has this actually worked? How many times has the woman turned around like, whoa, let me go talk to this like stand-up guy, you know, he seems like worthy of taking home to my parents. And it just trips me out, like still in the 21st century, we're still dealing with catcalling. And I'm like, I don't get it.
Yeah, catcalling is so big because part of my trauma in this area, and I think it's cultural. I don't know. We do live in a patriarchy, so I know that more cultures deal with this, but um, my first time getting a cat call, I was walking to Glassell Park Elementary School, and so I was either in the third or the fourth grade. And these older men like were yelling. I was like, I was scared, you know, I was just like, what are they doing? Like, I don't know. It was so weird. And it got worse after, you know, forever after that. And it's just like, that's a good point, Jess. You said, when has that ever been successful? Like, yeah, I never had even thought about it that way. To me, it's like, when I have brought it up to like, you know, guy friends that I think are like a little bit more open-minded, they'll even fight back and say, isn't that like a form of compliment for someone to be doing
Yeah.
that? Because you're going to reach a certain age that you're not going to get these compliments anymore. And then I'm like, But why
Whoa.
why would someone think that I need someone yelling something at me for me to feel validated about myself? I understand that some women might like that, whatever. That's cool. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying, I like I don't feel that way. I feel harassed when people are yelling at me, or like growing up and older men, like, or whoever, like just saying shit. And then like sometimes it can get violent real quick too. Like if you say something back, like F you, leave me alone, then it's a fight. And you're
And
like,
I just,
you're like, you know?
in that whole comment, you just said that phrase, like what your friend had rebutted, is like a whole, we could go into that whole argument, because that's still us catering to the male's attention. Like, well, what about our attention? Well, why don't you ask us, like, well, we don't want to be looked at like that, Like, how do you know? Why don't you ask me instead of assuming like that's because that's society standards? That's exactly what he just said. And that's just crazy to me, because it is always like the men above the women. Like, it doesn't matter what us women want. It's like, well, the men's going to think, well, this is attractive, or this is like complimenting her looks, insinuating, oh, because you're going to get old at a certain point and you're not going to have these looks anymore. It's like, well, who cares? That's inevitable. Well, why don't we talk about something like that is more valuable to me,
Yeah. And another part to this was they also said, I would, as a man, love for women to be yelling at me like every time I stepped out. And I'm like, you really wouldn't. It would get to a point that if this started happening when you were really young, because that's how it happens. There's little girls like out there that men are like yelling shit to. Um, like there's just no way that and then you go out and then you got to question. I question. Now I'm like a just straight up tomboy, but like before I used to really question like going out and like what I was going to wear so that I wouldn't get that much attention, depending on, like, it just would cause anxiety in me because I don't know why. It was just so traumatic to me, because I know it happens to a lot of women. But that, I don't know, I just kind of felt like violated, like leave me the fuck alone, like don't look at my body, and like I'm gonna try to cover it up as much as possible. And I don't know, I think some people are sensitive to that. And so for someone to think like I would love someone to do that to me, it's like, nah, no, you wouldn't. There's times where you're not in the mood for it, and it's just like, stop yelling at me, or you say something back, and now it's an exchange of all kinds of talking shit, and it's just like, just leave me alone, just stop. Like, what do you, why is this a fight now? Or I've seen people, like when I used to go, when we were younger and we used to pub, I remember like guys would say something, and then a girl wouldn't turn or something, like F you, you're ugly anyway. And like one guy one time threw a drink at a girl because the girl was like F you or something, and it was just like in her face, like she wasn't expecting it, and it just came quick. And it's just like, well, it was just so like, why would you ruin someone's night like that? Like, that's horrible.
Yeah, because his ego
And
was demolished for not attention, because in his mind, he grew up thinking like that was acceptable. That was acceptable, like to treat a woman, which is this whole episode. We're deconstructing, like, no, we're going to be treated equal. Maybe we should have called it the feminist episode.
But I was going to say also, us men, we do have a very fragile ego. Not willing to admit it, but we do.
I respect that.
Very few of us.
And that's why I don't think this episode should be called a feminist episode, because the issues that we're talking about, yes, these are issues and they suck, but we're also trying to say I'm trying to say, at least, I respect that there's both female and male energy, and we need to learn how to work on that, because and how do we start? We start by educating our children, like how to speak on like our bodies, and I don't know about the catcalling. I don't know how to fix that problem. Like I don't know what solutions there are. So if anyone has solutions, please share them. Or if you want to go deeper into the conversation, I guess like let's talk about catcalling, because I feel like that's a huge one in our culture. And okay, that takes me into another little point real quick. It also reminds me of in the past, when I've broken up with, partners, sometimes people said like, well, what did they do? Did they cheat on you? Did they hurt you? Like, what was going on? And I'm like, no, they just, whatever. They weren't meeting me halfway. And it's just like, well, that's what men do. They're like, what do you mean? And I would give examples, and they're like, that's what men do. Like, that's why you guys didn't work out. That's just how men are, and just growing up hearing that, it was frustrating, because it's just like, oh, okay. So, like whatever problem happens that they cause, it's that's just how they are. And it's just like, do women get the same passes? Because we don't. Like, well, that's just how women are, you know? They're just not gonna meet you halfway, and you just gotta, that boys will be boys. And I just, I kind of was resentful on that statement because I heard it from my mom. Maybe not exactly like that, but like I said, she expected different things out of me compared to my brothers. And I didn't get it until later. And I'm just like, man, her and her mom have the same relationship because, in our culture, we just kind of like let men get away with whatever because men will be men. And I think that there's a huge imbalance in our energies, and I think that we can come to a middle ground is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not trying to point the finger, and I think the word feminism has gotten a negative name because it's like, oh, we want equal pay, or we want this is very specifically to why I started to be like, I don't know if I'm going to use that word, because I don't know if they were offering solutions rather than igniting some fuel. But I'm not gonna like hate on that, Like, I'm not saying it's a judgmental thing, but to me, I like to be more solutions based. Like, this is a problem. We do need to talk about it, but like, also, how can we? I just want to say, I don't know the answers, but I do want to say that I believe that we can find a balance, and it could be very beautiful for the world and for ourselves.
But I like that song you referenced with Tupac. It does definitely resonate with us, since we've all been, I don't want to say victim, but we've all been exposed to that catcalling. Did you guys see the video I sent you, the Always commercial? Did you guys happen to check it out? So I know it's a tampon commercial, right? When I first saw that, I did not know it was a tampon commercial. But Always is a tampon brand. And so it's not necessarily the commercial we're analyzing, it's the message that we're taking away from it. So in the commercial, they're referencing and asking young women, kids, little boys and girls to throw like a girl, to run like a girl, to fight like a girl. And they would do these like dainty maneuvers, right? Like very like they had nails on, or they wouldn't throw, or not even really try at all. And then they asked little girls, okay, well, how, like little 10, 11-year-olds is what they look like. And they said, okay, well, throw a ball like a girl. And they would throw it like themselves, because I don't know if it had this idea has sat with them yet, But I think shortly after they're 10 or 11, when they start hitting puberty, it comes into these ideas, So I think they catch that message very well, because around this age is when little girls, I think, start getting that idea. Like, well, I'm too feminine. I can't throw a ball. I can't run well, right? And then when they ask them again and they explain to them, well, actually, why are you running like a girl? When did this become an insult is the main message. Why is that such a negative connotation to not try as hard to do these tasks? I think like the message was like, well, we got to change the idea. And that like starts within ourselves, and that starts with all the little young queens around us.
So for me, I took it one as a shocker. Even when we were explaining it for our debriefing, I had never heard that before. And then so I was pretty curious to see what you and Cindy's perspectives were on this topic. And I pretty much like kind of felt like a little bit resentful towards it, just because the fact of like, growing up female, for instance, we all have to think about like, the way our dads were, like girl dads, we pretty much all are, and just the fact of like our parents try putting us into sports, Cypress Park or softball days. And yeah, exactly, yeah, kind of like reminiscing on that. But yeah, kind of the fact of like, like from our dads from the sideline, like try harder, do your best, kind of reflected to the fact of like, if my dad really could have, he could have used some of those words, but I don't know what it is like, like as far as like the soft take in the way that they didn't, I could see for like some of us, like I don't know, for just me personally, for my dad, like how would I have felt? I mean, I broke my wrist during the practice times. Like, I didn't even get to play the season. So, I don't know. Like, yeah, it hit reality in my own sense, in my own slap in my face, pretty much. Like, how would have my dad would have been if I was being told some of these things, and how would I have grown up, with that?
Exactly. And I have a daughter now, so I'm definitely more conscious of the things I say to her, like when someone wants to buy her the thing with me right now are like baby dolls. I'm like, why does she need a baby doll? Or like I don't say like that's your baby. I say like, well, that's your friend, because I don't want to put her in this little box that where she's like, okay, well, I'm only going to be a mom, or like that's my goal is to be a mom. Like I want to give her these opportunities or these ideas that are not very limited just because of her gender. And I feel like that's what this commercial is saying to us. Like we're putting our little girls in a box. Like they can only do this amount and that's it. And they for sure cannot exceed the male. And I think times are changing where we're sending a different message with our generation.
I agree. I think times are changing, and I think even though we haven't figured out like the perfect balance, I think I do see more men stepping up rather than just leaving. Like they're trying their hardest. You know, and I think women, we've always been very. I mean, I know I'm being biased, you guys, but like I feel in general, people know that women are very like understanding, patient, forgiving, and it's like we carry this burden, I feel, where it's just like that's just where we have this big heart where we have, as women we just know to forgive, and it's just that is beautiful, but I feel that's where the disconnection is, because it's like, yeah, but you guys aren't meeting us halfway. And it's and if you did, then this could work even better, and yeah, I don't know, I think we are sending a different message, especially us three, because we all went to school, and not that that's the only way to do it, but I think we've done things, and like after growing up the way that we did, like we keep pushing it further for ourselves, and I think our daughters are already seeing that, and I, it's a big deal, because my mom was a little bit like, she worked a lot, and my mom was a different breed too, though, because she left Mexico at 18 by herself to like come to the US, and it's just like, whoa, that didn't happen. Like it happened amongst men but not women. So my mom's different.
Yeah.
But she's not traditional. And as much as like growing up I always wanted her to be more traditional, like that mom, like that, I don't know, was just very loving and patient, and just she wasn't. She was the other type of Mexican woman. She was hardcore. And like I love that. I love that energy. I'm so happy, because I'm very independent, and it was because of the way that she raised me, So it's a cool thing, but I'm just saying, you know what? I don't know what point I was trying to make with that. I went off on a different tangent.
Blows my mind. No,
And
no,
I did
no.
want
Yeah.
to end my segment with like, even though, yes, we keep distinguishing the differences of men and women in this topic, physiologically, yes, men and women are different. We're born with different hormones, but we're not being that specific in our message. We want to deconstruct these ideas, these stereotypes of women being fatigued, being weak, or not worthy, incapable of. We want to start elevating the way women think and elevating each other, because women to women can be so brutal to one another. I've witnessed it firsthand, and I'm always carrying a little surrender flag. Like, I'm not here. We're not competing. We're not playing this game. Like, I'm always shutting that down real quick and establishing we're here to lift each other up in any environment. And I feel like we need to continue to just be positive advocates for this word, this message that we're trying to bring across.
I agree. And that's a beautiful thing that you brought up, Jessica, about how I think that is a part of the solution, is that as women, we have and this all comes from our relationships with males. Women, we compete, we're always like taught to subconsciously like to compete against each other, physically, like, comparing ourselves, like how we look physically, or down to the like length of your hair, how do you dress, what are your values and shit, and so we judge each other a lot instead of accepting each other, and
Exactly.
even if you disagree with someone, that doesn't mean that you should stop that you should judge them. That just means you grew up this way, you see things this way, and that doesn't mean that yours is right or wrong. That's just your little perspective and universe. And same thing with others, you know? And so, yeah, I think that's a part of the solution, just that as women, we need to be kinder to each other. Even if we don't understand, we just need to be more loving, and all of this energy we give to our men, you know, where we're just so fucking forgiving, we need to do the same thing with each other and with ourselves, you know, with like being careful about how we talk to ourselves and how we talk to one another and the women around us, like making sure that we're trying our hardest to spread like respect and love. And it starts with having respect for yourself and having respect for others, and I think the world will be a better place if we respected each other more. The other
Awesome
thing
topic.
that I wanted to say, Jess, sorry, is because you mentioned you said something about, you know, just how like women are perceived as weak. um we're it's just crazy to me how other people haven't caught on to the fact of like being a woman. Why, I get it, you know, they don't, not everybody walks in our shoes, but it's just so amazing to me how hard it is, and that other people, not only is it hard, but on top of that, we still get abused, you know. And I think that's where I'm very resentful, and I'm doing a lot of like personal work with that, because I've never really had successful, healthy relationships in the past, when it came to like my romantic relationships. And I'm owning everything. I want to learn how to have healthy relationships, but I'm finally in a place where I understand that I need that time. And so I think sometimes, and that's another part of the solution, is like take the time that you need to heal from your own shit, because you're never going to be able to have like all of these relationships, you know, they could have worked, but we were all messed up, you know, because we're dealing with the real problem. And so we're just like moving around, like breaking people's hearts and moving along and just not ready. And now I feel mature enough, I guess, to say like, well, then if I have to die alone, then that's what it is, because I that's how I feel like very dedicated to understanding myself, my trauma, so that I can move past it. Like I don't want to live with this forever. I want to make sure I'm like healed from it, so that I can have successful relationships, period. Because it's not just with men, right? Like it's with anyone. It's in order to have great relationships, like I want to understand what's going on inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I feel like, how do you guys feel? I feel like I feel good. I know that this conversation was different, and I hope it is thought provoking, because we're trying to have these conversations, right? In our culture, in general, it doesn't have to be related to our culture. Just anytime something isn't working, I feel like talking about it is a part of the healing process. And so that's what I'm trying to do with this topic. Like that's why I wanted to talk about it. And you know, as women, we feel that it is sort of like there's a lot that we have to do, like so much. And I'm just like, wait, whoa, what the fuck? Who this? What? Whoa, wait, what? You like? How did this happen? And I also wanted to mention real quick, even stay-at-home moms, I could never do stuff like that, because that just drives me crazy. I couldn't do it. So I'm not judging. But you know, in the past, a lot of people are like, well, this person's just a stay-at-home mom, and it's just like, if you have a child and you're at home all day, you're not just a stay-at-home mom. Like I don't know how people do it, because sometimes when like I have my daughter back to back because of, you know, vacation or school, it's so hard because I have no time for myself. You know, it's just so hard. And so I don't know, I'm just like stay-at-home moms, and then if they're on top of that, they're cooking and the house is clean and they look good and other stuff, I'm like, yeah, no, I could never. So I my hat goes off to you, because that is a very hard job, and for people who, you know, to think that that's a weak job, that is not weak. That takes a lot. Oh my, that's such a huge sacrifice. And we have to make sacrifices in life, but that's a hard core. That's yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to say that.
I wanted to throw out there the conversation of modern relationships, you know, like from relationships back then to versus what they are now. So you're kind of segueing into what I would like to bring up, you know, like the whole stay-at-home mom type of thing, you know, that was, you know, something embedded, like you say, like two generations ago, our grandparents, you know, perhaps our mothers, sort of a little bit, but for us nowadays, now we're that modern relationship. Like I would speak for myself. Like I don't like, and I've had this conversation with Arthur, like yes, we would be bored at home, but we also want to, if we're establishing this relationship, we're establishing a teamwork effort. As much as I work hard, he works hard. As much as I have house duties, he has house duties. So I think there's like some sort of like balance now being established modern days, and that this relationship building, that communication that we've talked about, in this episode, and having that that partner or significant other that you feel that is not only like in your relationship, but your best friend and your companion, and someone you're gonna tell them in their face, like, no dude, like this is not okay, or some things need to be changed. And it takes someone to have that pride, as we talked about egos, to really overcome that and surpass that, because some men could just be like, no, it's all it's the women's, I could never cook. But no, I've seen ton of men cook. I mean, all my, like, a lot of my cousins and friends, I've seen men get down on cooking too, and hell yeah, I'll eat their food.
Yeah.
So I just have to say, like, as far as like segueing into that part, like, the modern day now, we don't, there's no boundaries for us to say, even if we stay home, well, we're staying home, but you know really nowadays, I mean, there's daycare centers, Cindy, Jessica, preschools now, that you want those interactions with the kids to kids, versus parents to parent and child type of relationship.
I agree. I think in both those statements, it's just setting boundaries. We're just lifting each other up. There's no shame in anyone's game. I don't know why I like to rhyme. That's my thing. But it's true. In different.
You're a great
shout out
lyricist.
to Dr. Seuss. I've been reading those to Melody.
I thought you were gonna say Dr. Dre.
Okay. No, but it's so true. Even when it comes to like mom shaming, I remember I wrote an entire paper on mom shaming. Like, we need to stop doing that. And it just goes back to what we said. We need to stop bringing each other down and lifting each other up and setting boundaries in different relationships in our lives. And it doesn't just mean romantic. It's like with the people around us that we love and care about, because our kids witness that. If they see the way I'm talking to my mom, they're going to be like, okay, well, this is normal. This is normal behavior that I am going to be able to talk to my mom one day. And we're just trying to break all those like old school stereotypes and stigmas.
But I'm going to spice the conversation up and try to throw this question and then just see how it hits you, ladies, see how it resonates. How do you feel if men in the relationships are technically taking over the role of what was considered a housewife, like a house husband? How do you guys feel about that? Like, or women being the breadwinners in the relationship? Would you allow a house husband to be a thing?
Hell yeah. Yes, I would. I think that was a power struggle from first-hand experience had dealt with. I didn't see, and again, I don't control anyone or the way they perceive things, but I'm all for that. I mean, I'm definitely for that. I'm not against it. I don't see the big deal in me going out to work and the man taking care of the house in switching roles. I don't see it. As long as there's teamwork, communication, and respect, those are things that I value. So it doesn't matter what society has to say about our roles in our house. Those are our rules. We make them up as we go.
I would have to say, there has to be like an establishment of him, like, going to school, doing a trade, type of thing. Like, but okay, yeah, if he's taking care of the kids, yeah, I would see that differently. But like, for instance, like, yeah, like he's showing some self improvement, because yeah, that I mean, we look at our partners, as far as like, like what are they doing, like I would have to, and maybe that's just me personally, I'm thriving just to all, like, master's programs we've been, we have our cousin thinking about, like, I would have to see some personal growth. Is this going to be long term? Is it short term, stay at home, type of thing? What are your goals? What are your ambitions for staying home? Like aside from cooking and cleaning, yes, but like, like personally, like, is this what you see yourself as? And then I would probably question myself, like maybe we need to talk about, if this is going to be our future together. But I wouldn't object to it. I'm just saying, like, as far as like, is this long term or is it short term type of thing? And what are your goals towards it?
I think as long as there's a very clear agreement, and then as long as that agreement, like you feel good, like, I feel good, you feel good type of thing. And then also being open to always revisit to make sure everybody's happy, right? Like, it's just like, am I doing my part? Are you doing your part? And making sacrifices, right? Sometimes it might seem maybe uneven, but if there's just certain sacrifices that you need to make, relationships are very complicated, because there is a lot of sacrifice, and then you got to sacrifice without losing yourself. And I think that's a beautiful thing. People who have been able to accomplish that, like I know a few people, and I'm like, that's beautiful, it's amazing. But that's, I'm like, I don't even have the answer. But I think for me, as long as there's a clear agreement, like, are you good with this? And then are you good with that? Like we're both putting in what we think is like, okay, yeah, like, because if someone's cooking and cleaning and doing, I mean, I would pay for that service. So yeah, like, taking care of my stuff at home, and I don't got to worry about it, like, oh,
Yeah.
I would be very happy. I don't care, just do your part. Yeah.
That's a good question, Eloy. Why? You thought we were going to be closed-minded, didn't you? You thought we were going to object to it.
Well, I actually, no, well, I will say, because I am currently in that situation, and I just felt like you guys were touching on certain things, and I was like, I wonder how they would respond to this question, like the stuff you guys were saying about relationships and old traditional roles and stuff like that when it came to relationships. And I was just curious based on some of the stuff you ladies were saying. I was like, I wonder what they would think about that. But it's a unique response.
But would you say you're taking care of the house duties then, since the roles have switched in your relationship? Are you cool talking about that?
Yeah, I don't mind. I have taken over, and I really have to step it up to realize what it means to take over. Obviously, we don't have no kids that we're taking care of.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of currently what's going on in our situation. And like, I had to like literally, other than I can't cook because I'm not I could cook, but the cook, we kind of do it together because she's better at that than me.
Correct.
But like the clothes washing, putting it away, the kitchen is always clean. I'm honestly like down to like mopping my floor like 3 times a day just to get the dust, because we like stretch on there a lot. And so I'm always just mopping, cleaning, wiping stuff down, putting the dishes away. I just want to wake up the next morning and not have to worry about cleaning. And that's going to happen throughout the day. So, and it became an easy thing. I don't know if it has to do with my OCD, but it became an easy thing to adapt to always wanting to clean and stuff. And then she saw it as a plus. And then I was going to bring up, it's kind of weird because I've already attempted to go get a job several times now. And Edith's like, I'd rather just have you be home. And so it's kind of like she appreciates it. And then she enjoys the company too. Like, she likes hanging out. And she's even admit that, like, I just want to hang out. Like, and if you're gone, then, because she has so much, she's a nurse, so she has 4 days off a week, and she only works 3 days a week. And then she'll honestly be like, no, don't go, don't do that. And like, I'm sure at one point I'm like, yo, I'm going to go work, but I'm kind of enjoying it right now, and I'm kind of taking on that role.
That's awesome. I'm glad it works for you guys. There you go. It's the dynamics. As long as it's everything we just said, there's communication. You guys are both happy still. So what there's no shame in that game. There I go rhyming again. I don't know what's in it.
I think,
You're an amazing
Cindy was right about like with the agreement. Cindy was right, like with the agreement. That's like an agreement, because I still get uncomfortable about it sometimes, thinking I'm not contributing financially. But other, like my car note and my insurance, I don't let her pay for that. So I do my thing to figure that out, and then I sell drugs on the side. But like, no, I'm joking. But I got some bills of my own that I don't let her. Like, she wants to, and I'm like, nope, I got to make sure I take care of these myself. Like, to give myself some dignity, or I don't know what you call it. Or is it a pride ego male thing,
Pride ego male thing, for sure.
Because
Yeah,
I
and
also
I
had to
think
deal with
that,
that a lot. Like in regards to gender roles, I had to deal with wanting to let people even know that that's what's going on in my relationship right now. I even have guy friends that instantly look at me like I'm weird and stuff, and it's like she's making a lot of good money right now. And she's like, oh, so we kind of took advantage of the situation. But I know it's not something like that I even like see myself like something what Melissa said, like, is this long term or something? I'm like, I got money saved up, so I'm kind of enjoying it right now. You know, like I said, she's taking care of our rent and like our phone bills and groceries, but I got my car notes and insurances and things that I like to take care of on my own. And
I think just
but
checking up on her to say, like, like, remember, like what Cindy said, like talking about it, making sure the agreements there between you guys matters, because yeah, like you don't know what, like, maybe she'll have a bad day. So like does her mind mentality, you always want to just check in with her too. Like, hey, like, are we good? Like, and like doing things like, mopping is like the littlest thing you can do for her, which is amazing, like that's pretty cool. Like that you do it 3 times a day, so I mean, little things like that matter that she sees, so good job for you.
so and then like I said, I definitely had to figure out what it means to the extra, like to push it to the max. Like what else can I do? And I'm trying to. That's a more recent thing. I don't gotta make it seem like I've been on it, but like I always try to ask them like, what more can I do? Because I'm sure there's something more. And like recently, it's getting to take care of Quill, the little rodent that we have. And I'm like, I never wanted to contribute to taking care of that thing, but now I'm like, Elo, you're here all day. She's working, just finally step it up. But in regards to also long term, like was it long term or like because there has to be an agreement. And I think even if she doesn't want me to work, I'm in an agreement with myself where like I'm just letting this probably finish out till COVID's over, and I'll probably like jump back on it. And I'm like, it's a cool long break. I don't know, cool
Yeah.
experience. Even getting
Yeah.
closer.
That's good. Maybe you guys will talk about a baby.
Never.
I think, yeah, as long as you guys are happy, you can't compare relationships to other people because there's no right or wrong way to have it. Like no one's ever taught us how to have a good relationship. I don't think we have the best role models. Um, my brothers do a good job, including you, Eloy. But it's hard to be in relationships, and like where do you go for like, is this right or wrong? Like, fuck that. If you guys are happy and you're constantly communicating and keeping it real with each other and always working on yourselves individually so that you can bring the best to the situation, then who cares how it looks to other people? It doesn't matter. What matters is that you guys are okay. You're fulfilling her needs. She's fulfilling your needs. Period. Like,
Yeah.
and if that looks different for people, then it's okay
So
because there's really no right or wrong way to have relationships like that. If you're ultimately making each other happy.
Congrats, cuz, for stepping outside the circle of comfort. You just stepped outside of it.
And I guess to bring it back to your guys' gender thing, I did kind of touch on it, but like it was like there's like a guy thing out there in society when it comes to gender roles of like the male being the provider and that has to be the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and I don't know, like just to deal with some of that and like embarrassment, it kind of felt like sometimes ashamed or something like that. But I don't know, I'm thinking different from that now. I'm like, I don't care what you guys think. Like,
yeah.
I know where I'm at with my wife.
Yeah.
Like I have a clear conversation. I mean, I think we're in clear communication, and I continue to communicate and kind of wonder, is it getting boring yet? I'm getting bored, so you must be bored. But she lets me know what's up, so we're good.
All right, kudos to you guys.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that we had this conversation. I hope it brought a little bit of clarity into how we can change our relationships. But I feel like we can continue to have this conversation. So thank you guys for sharing like such vulnerable moments about our personal lives. I think it's important that we keep it real because we're all going through shit, even though it might seem like we're not. We really all are. We're all dealing with trauma. We're all, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. And please let us know what else you'd like to talk about. Communicate with us. Tell us something. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode topic. We really, really got deep into this. And if you can tell, we went on a tangent with all our topics. So thank you all for staying with us through the times. Please give us some love and shout outs on our Instagram page, Primas Podcast, as well as our YouTube channel, Primas Podcast. Stay tuned to our next episode next week. We have another amazing topic to be talking about. Special shout out to our editor, little guidance, our guide in between conversations, Eloy. Thank you so much for everything you do. And to my wonderful primas as well, each week for meeting up and, discussing and our brain topics that we just, go off on a tangent at times. So thanks, ladies. Thank you, Eloy.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Adiós. Adiós, chicos.